Isabella, a renowned designer known for her creation of simple yet elegant dresses for affluent women, dedicated all her time and energy to her craft. At 35, she resided alone in a spacious studio apartment, furnished with only a comfortable bed and a small table where she enjoyed her morning coffee. The majority of the space was dominated by a large table holding fabric samples and her beloved sewing machine, a faithful companion in her solitary journey. Her social life took a backseat due to a flood of clothing orders from prestigious brands. Having never formed a family, Isabella once came close to marriage, but fate had other plans. She sighed, setting aside a folder of fabric samples in her attic studio, located in an elite district. The windows remained uncovered, allowing ample daylight to filter in. Isabella rose, tying the belt of her crisp white silk robe, and approached the window. The evening city below sparkled with golden lights, and farther away, the bay gleamed with lanterns along the main promenade. Evenings brought a stark awareness of her loneliness, unlike the busy days filled with creativity and work. The glittering city beneath made her feel like an invisible comet traversing a desolate cosmic space. Isabella sighed again, shifting her gaze from the distant city to her reflection in the glass. Her dark curly locks framed her face, and round reading glasses suited her well. Bright blue eyes, inherited from her mother, showed barely noticeable crow's feet. Isabella still possessed the beauty of her youth, often surprising others who assumed she was no older than 28. However, she believed such compliments were mere flattery. Looking into her own eyes, Isabella saw the echo of years spent in solitude, feeling akin to an ancient crone. Initially, she fought against this feeling, attempting to combat loneliness by donning a long black dress and wandering among brightly lit expensive storefronts or dropping into noisy bars. There, she would order lemonade, immersing herself in the music that once brought joy when shared with Javier, her fiancé. Memories of Javier's lively face and chestnut eyes filled with love haunted her, yet she rebuffed attempts by others to introduce themselves during her outings. Eventually, the walks became unbearable, leading Isabella to abandon evening excursions altogether. Instead, she immersed herself in her work, watched black and white movies, read, or doodled in her sketchbook until the late hours. Isabella ran her hand through her hair, pushing away memories. Turning from the window, she glanced at the wall clock. A gift from designer Hugo Martinez, its black and white dial showing 10 minutes to 10. Another call was imminent. The unraveling of Isabella's story began 7 years prior, a few months after her failed wedding. Suffering from the sudden disappearance of Javier, her fiancé, on their wedding day, Isabella mourned deeply. Taken in by her sister Mercedes and her husband, Isabella spent days staring blankly at the floral pattern on the wallpaper in a small room under the roof. It was in that room, as night approached and darkness enveloped her, that something peculiar occurred. Her unlit room became a canvas for disjointed images from the past. Memories of laughter, discussions of dreams, and promises of love flooded her mind. She vividly recalled the first date, walks in the park, and evenings by the fireplace. The room echoed with the chime of the old family clock striking 10, coinciding with the illumination of the room by a cold bluish-white light. Her mobile screen lit up with an incoming call from an unknown number ending in 49, the same numbers associated with the house on San Martin Street, where she and Javier had planned to build a life together. A tear rolled down Isabella's cheek as the call ended, only to be followed by the same numbers lighting up once more. Intrigued and somewhat apprehensive, Isabella answered the persistent call, her heart pounding. Yet the only response she received was a haunting silence. The next evening, precisely at 10 o'clock, the routine repeated itself. A call arrived from a different number, yet the enigmatic digits 49 persisted. Pressing the answer button, Isabella faced the familiar silence on the other end. Faint, intermittent breathing seemed to linger in the background, but certainty eluded her. Like clockwork, every day at 10 o'clock, the unknown number would grace her mobile screen, delivering nothing but ringing silence. Despite confiding in her sister about the mysterious calls and being advised to involve the police, Isabella hesitated. A peculiar sense of comfort and hope accompanied these daily occurrences, inexplicably soothing her. 7 years had passed, yet Isabella continued to anticipate the call with the digits 49, as if the universe communicated with her in this cryptic manner. Today, precisely at 10 o'clock, the phone rang once more. Holding it to her ear, Isabella immersed herself in the symbolic silence for a moment. "Good night to you too," she whispered to herself, ending the call. As she prepared to place the phone on the bedside table, it vibrated again in her hand. This time, a familiar number graced the screen. Hugo's name. They had collaborated on a collection 5 years ago, and he had gifted her the watch. Aware of Hugo's long-standing affection, Isabella had maintained a strictly professional relationship. "It's odd that he's calling so late," Isabella mused as she answered. "Hello, darling, how are you?" Hugo's friendly voice greeted her. "Hugo, it's me." "I'm fine. Why are you calling at this hour?" Isabella inquired. "No worries, not asking you out on a date." Hugo chuckled, putting Isabella at ease. It was always challenging for her to decline Hugo's invitations, but she valued their friendship. "Just hear me out," Hugo urged. "My manager called. We've been invited to a major business conference in the capital. Everyone will be there, understand. A golden opportunity to showcase our new collections, attract prestigious clients, and break into the international market." Isabella. The weight of the moment left Isabella momentarily speechless. "I don't even know what to say," she stammered. "What if I can't handle it?" A dissatisfied grumble emanated from the other end. "How can you not handle it? You're a pro. Where else would we find someone like you? You'll ace the collection presentation. I have complete faith in you," Hugo reassured, eliciting a grateful smile from Isabella. Hugo always knew how to support her. "But how did you manage to arrange this?" she asked, curious. For Hugo Martinez, nothing is impossible, he chuckled, affirming his unwavering confidence. With wishes for a good night, Hugo hung up, leaving Isabella lying in bed, her mind buzzing with excitement. She had dreamed of European recognition for so long, but never did she expect Hugo to make it a reality. The subsequent weeks were a flurry of preparation. The collection, still in the sketch stage at the time of Hugo's call, demanded swift action, finding fabric samples, making purchases, and crafting the models. By early May, everything stood ready, with only the final polish needed for the presentation aimed at captivating wealthy compatriots and European businessmen. Hugo emailed the tickets, prompting Isabella to contemplate her attire for the conference. Opting for strict tones with a touch of boldness, she sought to make a memorable impression. Why not wear a hat? Hugo's suggestion resonated over the phone, instantly sparking an image in Isabella's mind. Isabella settled on a light-fitting trouser suit, strategically concealing a slightly protruding belly. Underneath, she wore a thin meshed turtleneck, and atop her head sat a huge pink hat, complemented by matching candy-colored shoes. Hugo gave his approval, dressed in a mint-colored shirt accentuating his bronze tan, light trousers, and the vest. "We definitely won't go unnoticed." Hugo chuckled over the phone, and Isabella concurred. Their hour-long flight had them seated apart. Hugo dozed off, while Isabella reviewed the presentation materials, her nervousness palpable with sweaty palms. Much hung in the balance, her future prospects, and the realization of a long-standing dream. The woman couldn't fathom the significance this business meeting would hold for her. The prior evening, precisely at 10 p.m., the mysterious call had come again. In a moment of unexpected spontaneity, Isabella had declared, "Tomorrow, my dream will come true." Silence lingered on the other end, yet Isabella sensed a silent sigh. Before landing, she managed a brief 10-minute nap, accompanied by a peculiar dream, Walking down the street in a pink hat under bright sunshine, she suddenly remembered the impending conference. In a rush to call Hugo, she realized her phone was missing. Panic set in as a hurricane wind snatched her hat away, leaving her in despair as darkness descended, accompanied by the tolling of a bell -10 strikes. Upon awakening, Isabella found herself still in the grip of the vivid dream. Javier, her ex-fiancé, rarely visited her dreams, and this time he appeared as a tangible presence. The unsettling feeling lingered as the plane descended. Upon landing, Hugo's concern was evident. "You look so pale, Belle. Did you have a rough flight?" he asked. "I'm fine, Hugo. It'll pass soon," she reassured. Hugo handled their luggage, called a taxi, and took charge, allowing Isabella a moment to collect herself. Despite feeling unwell, she pressed on. Arriving at the hotel, Hugo assisted with check-in and accompanied her to her room, emphasizing the importance of a good night's rest. "Sleep, sleep, sleep," he encouraged. Isabella, still in the throes of her emotions, entered her room, showered, and nestled under the fluffy blanket. At 10 o'clock, the anticipated call never came. Isabella waited for minutes that stretched into half an hour. By midnight, tears flowed, the first time in years. "Where are you?" she whispered in despair. In the morning, a concerned Hugo woke her. "Belle, are you still asleep? The conference starts in 40 minutes. Isabella rushed to get ready, masking dark circles with foundation. The hat covered any hair mishaps. Descending to the lobby with presentation materials in hand, Hugo expressed relief. "Thank God you're on time, Belle, as always just a little tired," he remarked. "I slept very poorly," Isabella explained. "I understand," Hugo empathized. "I've called the taxi." In the car, swiftly arriving at a skyscraper with blue windows, Hugo consulted notes. "The conference will be on the 13th floor," he muttered. "Conference room number 49. Isabella froze. Hugo disapproved but refrained from comment. Entering the hall, a diverse crowd had gathered, renowned designers, fashion connoisseurs, and entrepreneurs worldwide. Seated at the front, Isabella momentarily forgot her worries. She was about to address this prestigious audience. Isabella extracted the presentation script from her folder, attempting to immerse herself in it, pushing the lingering unease in her soul aside to focus on her speech. The hall gradually filled with new faces, but Isabella hardly noticed. She only looked up from the text once to confirm that the rail displaying samples of her collection adorned the stage. Bright green feathers on dresses and the golden shimmer of sequins on jackets instantly caught her eye. Tears welled up as she was transported 7 years back, to the day she wore a radiant golden dress on her way to marry Javier. Refusing the traditional white wedding dress, she opted for audacious gold, a bold choice for her hometown. But in that moment, all she could think about was Javier and the eagerness to become his wife. Hugo's gentle squeeze on her elbow snapped her out of the grip of memories. "Belle, you're next," he whispered, and Isabella nodded. Taking a deep breath, she heard her name amidst applause, stepped onto the low stage, and faced the sea of camera flashes. As Isabella composed herself, ready to begin her presentation, something disrupted her focus. Her heart pounded desperately, and her head spun. What was causing this sudden fluster? Scanning the audience once more, she locked eyes with someone familiar, intense brown eyes belonging to the dearest person in her life. Transported back 7 years, Isabella recalled the limousine's stop at the church, stepping out in her luxurious golden dress. Her sister adjusted her hair as they ascended the wide staircase. Her father blessed her, kissed her forehead, and the doors swung open. The hall, however, greeted her with confused and empty stares, devoid of smiles or joy. Descending the memory lane, Isabella remembered the funeral-like atmosphere, the distant cries, and the shock of learning Javier had gone missing. A week later, they discovered his bloated body in a lake. Isabella turned to designing dresses as a way to cope. Now, standing before 100 people, she felt the weight of her long-lost loved one's eyes on her. "Come on, Bill," Hugo whispered, urging her forward. Isabella took a deep breath, beginning her performance. Yet, despite her will, her gaze wandered. Among the audience, she spotted the man with the familiar eyes, part of a foreign delegation, his dark, wavy hair revealing a touch of gray. Caught in his gaze, the man stood up and headed for the exit. Panic surged through Isabella. Stumbling and swaying, she dropped the presentation sheet. A commotion ensued in the front row as Hugo rushed to the stage to assist. Isabella helplessly looked between him and the exiting man, fearing he would vanish before she could unravel the mystery of those familiar eyes. Hugo stepped onto the stage, his hand on Isabella's elbow. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Isabella nodded, her throat dry. "Can you continue the presentation?" Hugo inquired, but Isabella's attention was fixed on the man by the exit, intent on leaving. "Wait!" Isabella shouted, rushing towards the exit. Ignoring Hugo's words, her pink hat fell to the floor, but she paid it no mind. The man reached the elevator, and Isabella followed, slipping inside just in time. "I must seem crazy, but you look so much like someone dear to me, someone who passed away 7 years ago," she explained, her voice barely audible. The man lifted his eyes, and Isabella's heart froze. It was Javier, or someone who looked exactly like him, his gaze filled with tenderness and love, tinged with guilt. "Bill, how I've missed you," the man whispered, embracing her tightly. Tears streaming down her face, Isabella clung to him. "Where have you been all this time? Why did you leave me?" she pleaded. "I'll tell you everything," Javier replied softly, running his hand through her hair. The elevator doors opened, and Javier led her to a waiting car around the corner. Isabella sat in the passenger seat, Javier behind the wheel, and they drove off. It felt surreal. Javier's hands on the wheel, the dark hair on his wrists. "I saw you in a dream on the plane," Isabella sighed, struggling to grasp the reality of the moment. "I saw you in a dream every day throughout all these years," Javier confessed quietly. Parking in a narrow alley, he turned to her. "Forgive me, Bill. I couldn't do otherwise," he said. As Isabella leaned forward, suspicion crept in, but Javier gently asked her not to interrupt. "I couldn't put you in danger, Bill, so I staged my own death," he confessed, causing Isabella to burst into tears. "How could you, Javier? How could you?" she asked. "I almost died of grief when I found out you had drowned. I almost went crazy. And all these years, why did you leave me for so long? Why didn't you get in touch? It would have been enough just to hear from you," Isabella questioned, her emotions pouring out. "All this time, I had to hide. You can't imagine how dangerous they are, Bill. Yes, I was afraid for myself, but most of all for you," Javier explained, his eyes reflecting the weight of his hidden struggles. "I called you every evening." Isabella was thunderstruck. "So it was you," she sighed, her heart flooding with mixed emotions. Javier gently stroked her cheek, his touch a balm to her soul. "I thought about you every minute of every hour of every day of mine. I missed you so much, my love." Isabella nestled against him, her voice filled with longing. "Me too. But why didn't you call yesterday?" she asked, puzzled by his absence. "I was on a plane," Javier simply replied, his eyes filled with warmth. "And I knew that tomorrow I would finally see you." Isabella moved away slightly, her gaze searching his eyes for answers. "But why did you leave all these years? I've been following your success. When I found out you were going to participate in the biggest business conference, I suggested to my company to become your investor. I really wanted your dream to come true. When you stepped onto the stage in your enchanting outfit, I almost went crazy with the desire to touch you, but I couldn't approach. I didn't want to ruin everything by disrupting your presentation. I never thought you would notice me in the audience. I was afraid of breaking your life again. You've come so far, become famous nationwide. There was no room for me in your life." Isabella shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "Career could never replace what I've lost. You've always been everything to me." "Oh, Belle," Javier uttered, salty drops rolling down his face, revealing the depth of his emotions. Isabella held him close, feeling his vulnerability, a familiar sensation stirring within her, a longing to care for him, to ease his burdens. "What will become of us now?" Isabella whispered, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "I don't know. I'm free from them now, but it's not certain. In this business, you can never be 100% sure. I'm afraid it's still not safe for me." Isabella squeezed his hand, her heart heavy with worry. "I don't care. Life without you doesn't make sense." Javier ran his hand thoughtfully through her hair, contemplating their future. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. Isabella nodded without hesitation. Javier sighed, pulling her closer, his touch reassuring and tender. Then he kissed her, a promise of a new beginning, and started the car, embarking on their journey together. From that moment on, they never parted ways.